Okay, so dear friends, based on what I observe, people don't leave the venue. 5 o'clock, full hall. For you, dear friends, I think you should be pleased with that. And today we're going to talk about the feeling of shame that some of you have coming here because of the incidents you had. And that's exactly what we're going to discuss. Can the CISO prevent the incident? What should we do when it happened? And how we reconcile with that, how we live with those incidents. And dear audience, please feel free to ask your questions. I will introduce everybody. 15 minutes before we stop the session, I will ask my questions. Ilya Borisov, the methodology department lead for BK. Artyom Sychov, the director for Rostelecom Infosecurity. Sergey Demidov. Ростех.
Это Ростех информационный.
Ростех Cybersecurity.
Путают сейчас. Да, РТ, как бы надо что-то с аббревиатурой поделать. Сереж Демидов.
Okay, so RT should be resolved somehow.
Информационной безопасности и управления. Да, вот так должен называться. Илья Зуев.
Oleg, Cybersecurity and Risk Management lead for the Moscow Stock Exchange. Oleg,
независимый эксперт. От этого не менее уважаемый.
And Oleg Kuzmin, the independent expert. And the first question, dear friends, to just surprise the audience, what do you think? How much does the CISO affect the fact that we have 0 incidents in cybersecurity? Let's start with Oleg.
Ну, что я хочу сказать? Конечно, влияние CISO должно быть заметно.
What I would like to say is that CISO should be
для того, чтобы инциденты
CISO's impact should be very well felt.
Вероятность, что они будут или не будут.
The better you are prepared, the less probability is there for the incidents. So the CISO preparedness and the company preparedness and the measures that has been taken, what was done by CISO him or herself, the team's activities, the practical preparation, and whether everything was checked in practice. Because maybe for the small incidents, it will be harder to notice, but for the bigger ones, that's a big thing. Okay, Ilya. 0 cybersecurity incidents. How much do you affect that metric? Definitely the CISO would affect that. And of course, you can say we're the most cybersecurity protected company in the world, and you can attract everybody to hack you. But on the other hand, you can actually be quiet, and with all those trends, with all those significant developments, you can ensure the system, the complex system, to prevent and avoid those incidents. Oleg, I think, we need to depart, Sergey, we need to depart the rosy rainbow pony world. And there was an article said why CISOs are drinking. And it was a serious issue in the West, because people are unable to cope with emotional stress. And this is mostly because the expectations of them are like zero incidents, zero intrusions, zero leaks. And the world has shown that it is actually unrealistic to create such a system. Maybe if you dig a hole in the ground and put a server there and forget the place, then yeah. But otherwise, it's impossible. How does the CISO affect that zero? I would say no, it doesn't. The more important thing is how you manage the expectations and what you do when the incident happens. The incidents will still keep happening if you don't, bury your servers in the ground, like Nabiulina was saying. Zero inflation is in the graveyard, but we don't want to go there. Zero incidents are also in the graveyard, right? Yeah, Artem, I would support my colleague in saying that zero incidents is impossible. Otherwise, half of the people in this menu would not be needed. But definitely, CISO should affect that, not by only preventive measures and protection tools, but in the huge IT infrastructure that the company has. He or she should be social, not just, being locked in the room and expecting no incidents to happen. But life is different. So you need to work and affect everybody. Yeah, the incidents will probably, the number of incidents will not even depend on you, but to prepare people to react to them so that they are not, getting drunk every day. Yeah, it's important. Ilya, well, my morning thesis is like zero incidents is like 100% availability. Do you have 100% availability in your IT? 5 nines is a good thing. 4 nines is a industry standard. So saying that the doctors are responsible for zero people getting sick, or firemen being responsible for zero fires, definitely. Can you affect the quantity of incidents? By all means. If you work with the company culture, if you work with the automation and the defense systems, you can reduce the number of internal incidents. And this is the area where the CISO can affect stuff. With the external things, it's harder. But a very important thing, is to work with expectations, to reduce the number of incidents, make them lighter and easier for the company to survive, and that's it. Oleg, what would you say to your manager setting you a KPI of zero cyber attack incidents and would not want to change it? What would your attitude be? What would your reaction be? Probably I would not work with such a manager. Because there are goals and tasks that are solvable, and there are some that you cannot achieve. I was participating in a lot of investigations, the incidents, and all the measures were taken and tested. Sooner or later, you will have an incident that you're not technically prepared for. So the KPI of zero is not something that you would see in the worldwide practice. Sergey. Yes, we can actually build perpetuum mobile, but the cost will be indefinite. So if you have unlimited amount of money, then you would probably be able to implement a system that has zero incidents.
Я вот в своей жизни привык
But what would your reaction be?
бороться с этими проблемами эмоционально.
Actually,
Вот, а
I
стараться
am
привести их в
used
какую-то
to
математику.
not
Вот, и, наверное, я сказал,
trying
хорошо,
to
дайте время,
work
я
with those
посчитаю
issues
бюджет
by
вот этой
myself. I would
задачи.
say, yeah,
Вот, и, наверное,
give me
действительно
some
какая-то
time. I
там
will
сумма,
calculate the budget, and at
сумма
some
появилась
point,
бы достаточно
some amount of
При
money,
этом, на
it's a
самом
very
деле, на
significant amount of
практике
money, would.
существуют люди, которые в открытую и честно говорят, что вот нашу систему невозможно взломать.
This would entail.
Я даже
And
раскрою
there are
название.
people who would say, people
Позитив
like
Они
positive
когда
technologies
приходили
would say,
продавать, я говорю,
you
ребята,
cannot
я
break
не верю в
that
свои
that
системы,
system.
да? Вот, потому
And
что
when they were
это
selling
просто
something to me,
стало состязательным
I
упражнением.
said,
После 22-го года это
I don't
ошибка.
believe,
Потому
especially
что
after
там
the
сидят люди
2022,
на той стороне,
that
которые ищут твои
people on the
ошибки.
other
Ты
side are
стараешься эти ошибки тоже за себя найти.
competing with you.
Состязательно. Посчитать
They
себя умнее
are
других,
looking
ну,
for
так
your
себе,
errors,
вот,
and
подход. Вот,
the
каждый
people on the
человек
other
всегда
side are
найдет
looking for
китаец,
mistakes and
который
errors.
лучше
And
тебя умеет делать.
of course,
Вот, и
you
даже
would
иногда не китаец.
always have
И в
some,
этом смысле
Chinese or
я вот
non-Chinese
все свои
guy
ошибки нашел.
that would be
Поэтому
able
допускаю,
to
что я могу сделать ошибку. Но
find
CISO
more and more
говорят
of
о том,
your
что их систему невозможно
mistakes.
взломать.
But positive technologies would
Наверное,
say that
наверное,
their
они просто к
system
этому
is
нормально
unbreakable.
подошли, чтобы быть уверенным в том, что
Maybe
инвестируют
they
такое
spent a
количество
lot
денег,
of
что они после этого
time,
могут
money,
доверить
and
себе.
effort that they can
позитив
say
акционерная
that
компания,
out loud.
достаточно успешная, поэтому я думаю,
Well,
Илья,
Positive is
что-то
a,
хотел
is a
добавить?
public company, quite successful one. So I think they considered that
Уже
very
ничего,
well.
после того, как...
Да, Сергей уже дальше ответил нормально.
Понятно.
Yeah,
Окей, тогда
I think
такой
Sergey
вопрос.
has said it well.
Когда Германия
Okay, so a
напала
question to you then.
на Советский
When
Союз,
Germany attacked
на
the
Брестскую,
Soviet Union, the
известно,
Brest
что
Fortress,
Иосиф Виссарионович Сталин
we know that
на
Joseph
12 дней
Stalin
уехал к себе и, значит, потерялся от
for
мира.
12 days
Потом
went
приехал и
to
стал
his
снова руководителем.
dacha and was
Предполагается,
lost. And then he
что
came back
он
and
таким
started,
образом как бы пережил
leading the
этот
country.
инцидент, да,
So
серьезный.
we
И
think
взял
that
себя в
there's
руки,
a
вперед,
thinking
пошел
that,
дальше
this was his way of
Вот,
coping and,
когда все-таки происходит какая-то катастрофа, мы не
reacting to
говорим
the
про
incident.
рядовой
So when a
какой-то,
catastrophe happens,
какая-то
not
катастрофа,
an
реально
ordinary
событие,
incident,
которое
it's some
привлекло,
very
которое является
serious
какие-то кибер
event
аспекты, и бизнес у тебя
with
пошел
some
вниз.
significant
Скажи,
cyber
пожалуйста, ты при
aspects,
этом какие внутренние ощущения испытываешь и как-то как бы
pushing the business down.
чтобы
So how do
ну,
you,
это такой, наверное, удар все-таки или нет?
how do you cope with it?
Да, у
Because
меня
it's
даже было несколько
probably,
таких
it's a significant
серьезных инцидентов, когда казалось, что вообще
thing.
мир перевернулся. Вообще
Well, yeah,
всё
I did
пропало.
have a number of
И,
those incidents when I thought,
мне кажется, лучший ответ
everything is
заранее
lost.
подумать,
I think the best
заранее узнать
response to that
То есть я,
is
допустим,
to
знаю,
test
что
yourself,
меня
is to
драйвит
know yourself.
достижение
I
каких-то
know
целей.
that I'm
И
driven
здесь
by
я
achieving some
старался
specific goals,
трансформировать все
and I
негативные
try to
эмоции в
transform all those
достижение
negative
определенной
emotions
цели. То есть
into
есть цель
achieving
проработать инцидент. И все остальные мысли,
some new goal,
вот эти
like,
негативные эмоции, что все пропало, все
coping
безнадежно, они
with the
уже там, они
incident
уже
and
на
fixing
месте,
the
и
results of the
прочее.
incident. So
Все это нужно отметать,
even the
сразу
thoughts about, the
отходит
perpetrators
сознание,
owning the
концентрироваться на
infrastructure,
цель,
no,
огромной,
you
к
just
ее решению.
remove those
Если
thoughts
на
and
каком-то
you have a
этапе
goal
нужно
of
эту задачу решить.
mitigating whatever possible, and you need to ask yourself, how can I
Не знаю,
Там всё
solve this?
настолько ситуативно происходит,
Was
что
it
план
helped by
планирования,
having
ты их можешь
plans?
вырабатывать на ближайшие
Well,
несколько
it's
дней, не больше.
mostly situation-based,
Дальше планировать просто
and you
свалить.
can plan for
Артем, скажи,
maybe
пожалуйста, у тебя
2 or
как
3
дела
days
обстоят с планами
ahead,
реагирования? Говорят, что
and it's a useful
вот
thing.
киберучения, особенно тейблтоп, киберучения, они бесполезны в конечном счете, потому
Oleg,
что каждый инцидент
cyber
просто
drills
свой,
are useless
уникальный
because
флёр,
every there's a
и
top,
имеет
a
свой уникальный
popular
импакт. И требует своего уникального
school of thought
подхода,
that says,
который,
every incident is
то есть
specific
невозможно
and requires
выработать в
a
результате
very
тренировок.
unique approach that
Ты
cannot be
в
developed
своей профессиональной
during training.
деятельности
So as part of
придерживаешься
your
такого
professional
подхода,
life,
такой
do
мысли,
you
или тебя
support this
напрягает
view,
это
or
что-то?
То, что
you
инциденты,
have some
наверное, всегда
other
идут
approach?
не так, как было запланировано, это понятно.
Answer. Well, the fact that the incidents are
Наверное,
different from training
все равно,
is
когда
correct,
если понимаешь, какое-то
but
экстремальное что-то хочешь,
like
да,
if
что-то
you
произойдет, ты к
take,
этому
for example,
немножко
extreme
готовишься.
driving,
То есть
then
руку все равно набиваешь.
you
Но на момент, когда ты
would have
особенно
some
руками
experience
отработал какой-то,
to,
не знаю, элемент
to
шифрования
solve
своей инфраструктуры, ты
issues.
хотя бы в нужный момент
Like,
что-то
if you know how to work with
То есть, в
encryptors,
принципе,
you will be
киберучения,
able
они
to
хотя бы как-то немного
remember
набивают.
what you
Да, может
did.
быть,
So
там другой
cyber drills are
не
useful.
шел
They
получили
help
инфу.
you
Понятное дело, всегда будет что-то уникальное, но руки уже знают, что
create
делать.
skills and
А отвечая
workflows
на предыдущие еще, ну,
and
дополняя, дополняя тот вопрос,
reflexes
я бы сказал, что когда
that
прям
would help you.
серьезный инцидент, ключевое это общение с командой.
And
Потому что
in a
часто я сталкиваюсь
serious
с тем, ну,
incident,
был такой опыт,
communicating with the
что
team
там
is super
департамент ТП, не все
important.
знают, что там что-то лежит
I have
или где-то там что-то
some
сломалось.
experience,
Ключевое, на самом деле, всех быстренько
Nowadays,
собрать, где-то собраться, обсудить,
when
что
no
какая
one
проблема, действовать
or
там
many
по такому
people in the
плейбуку
team would
и
know that
оперативно
something
решать,
is wrong.
что пошло не так.
So
То есть
the
ключевое,
playbook,
наверное,
working together,
холодная голова
communicating,
и общение с командой.
keeping
Понятно,
cold
понятно.
head,
Илья
and
Борисович, тебе вопрос как
communicating with the team is
методологу
super
главной
important.
технологической компании страны.
Ilya,
ИС.
as the main
По
methodologist of the
вашей
main
точке зрения,
technological company
насколько
of Russia,
и какие метрики вообще, на твой
question
взгляд,
to you.
наиболее эффективны в
What are the
оценке
metrics
деятельности
that
security
are
operations, в
the
частности,
most
CISO в целом?
important for assessing security operations
Это такой почти
effectiveness?
религиозный вопрос.
Well, it's a little bit of a religious
Мы
question.
сторонники какой религии с тобой?
Тут каждый сам выбирает, как в песне Высоцкого.
Так.
What is the religion we
На самом деле,
follow?
если говорить о
It's everybody's,
да, надо,
everybody
во-первых,
chooses for
у любого
themselves,
CISO есть
like
несколько
in
слоев.
Vysotski's
Это,
song. Every CISO has
это еще проекты,
a
которые
number of
бизнес-приоритеты,
layers
участвуют.
around change,
Поэтому,
disrupt,
собственно,
business
метрики
priorities,
могут
and
быть
metrics,
всегда разные.
of course, can
И
follow
давайте
those
скажем честно, что как это, мало метрик
workflows.
не бывает. Хорошо, когда есть много.
And
есть
to be frank,
выбор
it's good to have a lot of
две
metrics,
ключевые.
and when
Ну,
you can
например,
choose between key ones and
мы
unimportant
давно
ones.
обсуждали подход к
Like we discussed
метрикам
recently,
по phishing. Что, как
the
правило, измеряют
approach
при
to
фишинговом
phishing
обучении?
metrics. What do you measure during
Что
phishing
конкретно
drills?
измеряют?
Важно измерять отклик персонала на вот получение этого фишингового сообщения.
It's important to measure personnel response and the amount of people who
потому что это сигнал о том, что что-то
opened
началось.
the
В
phishing.
реальности прям
But the second one is the signal that something has happened. As a victim of phishing attacks or attempts, phishing attempts, if something goes through our screens, the fact that people start immediately to warn you, that's very important. Yeah, and penetration win rate. Because if you
Илюша,
say, you know, this vulnerability is not visible from the internet, but if you see the penetration win rate, that's something that's already very much concerning for the business.
Или нет, и ты можешь предложить какие-то...
Do you think there's a
Нет,
logic
конечно, 0 инцидентов — это неразумная метрика.
Количество инцидентов.
in zero incident approach? Of the number of
она
incidents,
просто недостижимая. Да?
zero
Разумная
is impossible
метрика —
to achieve.
это, например,
The logical
снижение
metric
счетов
would be
инцидента, о чем я говорил. То есть,
the
если ты можешь,
damage
да, это
reduction.
тоже такая холиварная тема. Как считать,
There's a lot of
можно
holy
ли
wars
считать,
around, damage
условно,
calculations and stuff
если
like that.
о том, как оценивать инциденты, это скорость реагирования, то, о чем Сергей говорил.
You can
Это
assess
ключевой фактор, на
the
самом деле.
reaction speed. And maybe it's the
Самое
key
важное, насколько
factor.
быстро ты узнаешь о том, что не так.
It's important
Сейчас видим случаи,
to
когда большие корпорации,
know,
типа
to understand how
Microsoft, что у
fast
них в инфре
you
сидят злоумышленники по полгода.
react.
Да, так вот, это во многом
Because we
из-за того,
have
что
companies like
проблема
Microsoft
с
saying that actors and perpetrators are in their infrastructure for half a year.
метрика, да, и вот с ней
And
можно работать. И нужно
mean time to
работать.
detect
И
is an important metric
хороший пример.
that you can work with. Phishing
Большинство меряет количество пользователей, которые открыли фишинг. Да, а на самом деле важно
is
как быстро
measured
пользователи сообщили
usually
о том,
by
что
the percentage of people who open, but it should be measured by the speed with which you get that information. It's, you know, one person is enough. You don't care how many people opened that letter after the first one. Penetration has already happened. And the metric system should be sensible, should make sense. And second thing, if you have the first one being reaction speed, is the SOC reaction speed. How much time passed?
Сколько пользователей открыло письмо, сколько перешло по ссылке. Вот в чем проблема.
since deep injury has happened, and mostly still calculate the number of openings, the number of people who opened.
То, что все мы, понятное дело, отчитываемся там по
So, yeah, the amount of incidents is a very tough metric. We report quarterly. And how would you explain, 1,000 in one quarter, then 500 in another quarter? And you would want to, manipulate that number of incidents. It's a poor metric. It's a bad one.
Сегодня все хотят быть
Can I
модераторами.
switch topics?
Ладно.
Уже не хочется слушать про количество
Everybody wants to be a moderator. Yeah, number of incidents is a dead end. Okay, how do we measure the
Давай так,
CISO?
за что тогда лишать CISO зарплаты?
What should be the reason to to fine, to punish CISO, to stop paying him money? Your work is unsatisfactory. We don't pay you, a bonus. So, what's a good reason for that? Actually, in Europe, there's a trigger point for incident amount KPIs that had some damage. If we found it, reacted to it, and the harm was zero, it's okay. But if the incident created some damage, then the KPI goes down, depending on the criticality of the incident.
Но в любом случае инцидент — это такая комплексная история, в которой, ни один CISO виноват.
Anyways, the incident is a complex story. Not only the CISO would be to blame.
Отвечает за последствия инцидента.
Oleg, do you think only CISO should be responsible, or all the participants should be
Как быть?
Я думаю,
should be to blame?
сегодня ЦИСО все-таки должен делить ответственность.
Answer: well, I think nowadays CISO should be sharing responsibility with CIO, IT director, because there's a lot of network
Возглавляем IT-директором.
devices being managed by the IT
То есть нельзя сказать, что мы просто
team.
ждем, вот инцидент произошел, а потом искать...
And you need to be prepared
Для
beforehand.
одного ЦИСа.
And it should not be after the incident that you decide how you structure the assessment process. The processes should be designed well so that all the teams work together, and then it will allow you to share the responsibility. And also, there will be no responsibility because the damage will be
Я
zero.
прокомментирую, у меня просто прямо рука уже чешется, вот хочется прокомментировать.
Can I comment on this one?
Да, нет, просто, там в ответ на вопрос, за что стоит
The
лишать.
left hand or the right hand?
Кажется, это надо
Well,
делать.
a good question. Why should you, reduce the bonus for a CISO? Maybe you should do it just randomly so that they are more angry and more effective. Just a
Которые бедные,
joke.
несчастные ходят, и его все бедные
We
обижают.
perceive them
Я
as
считаю себя терпилой, и что там вот мне надо...
we perceive the CISOs as victims. I don't think I'm a victim. I don't think I should share the responsibility. I'm a top manager. I'm the organizer. I take part in, sharing in the profits, same as CFO, chief business officer. So, in that sense, my part is to ensure there are no incidents. And of course, I need to be managing their expectations, and of course, I need to be carrying the responsibility. So the idea of sharing the responsibility or pushing it to IT, then no, it should be blamed on me. It means that I am incompetent in the administrative work. After the law number 250,
Хорошо.
CISO is a top manager,
Которые повлекли за
and you need to use it, and you need to carry that responsibility. So besides the incidents with damage, what can be the reason for you to lose your bonus? I think it's a very emotional story. We can have incidents that, can affect me, that even had no damage. And I don't, push the responsibility back in terms of, especially in terms of managing the expectations. And it's quite simple for me. Here's how it works. There's an appetite for risk for the whole company that is defined for the whole management. Risk appetite is defined by the shareholders and their representatives. There's an amount of money that we can lose during a year, because we change a lot and we have a lot of risks, including the cyber risks, and also the acceptable and non-acceptable events are defined, and those numbers of those events are defined. And if the risk appetite is exceeded, then everybody would suffer, but I would suffer more as the one responsible. But also, if we did not receive if we did not pass that threshold, we still can have, PR risks and reduction. But if the overall result of the company was bad, for example, if I say that, stop using all the servers, put them underground, and put them under the concrete, then of course I have 0 incidents, but there's no business, there's no profit, meaning no one will get their bonuses. Okay, good. Artem, is your company structured in the same way? If the business result is not as good as expected, and the bonus size is reduced. Or if you had a cyber incident, then you suffer the most, but the manager also loses. Well, we are a government-owned corporation. We have other metrics, but the answer is quite simple. There's a law, number 250, saying, personal responsibility lies within the CISO, and that's exactly how it is. Ilya. Well, in our case, in MTS Bank, we have the same type of system, and it works quite well. Instead of, fighting with IT, there are some people who try to do it and try to push some KPIs on them. You can put your cybersecurity part as part of the CEO motivation, because then all the issues will be much better, much easier to solve, because both IT and cybersecurity works to achieve the same goals. And does the CEO agree to that? Yeah, they would want, or the board of directors would require this from the CEO to have that. It's a very popular thing nowadays. Wow, cool. Good. Oleg, a question to you. Say the system ensures that the CEO has 0 minutes downtime, and you failed that. What would you feel? Shame, regret, some other feelings? You set the company up. I think I have a deja vu answering this on the previous event. I would say that I would not feel any shame. The CEO did not get his bonus. The board is crazy and angry, and you don't care. Well, we need to decide. Maybe it's the blame is lies with the CEO, or maybe something else. Let me paraphrase it. We are discussing the technical part of the incident. Hackers, the system not working well, but there's another side of the story with people that can be used to, penetrate, and then the systems would not work, but the incident will happen. So the KPI for the CEO would be red, and I think he or she should be suffering. Actually, I have a different opinion. I think the CISO should work with the HR, with the security teams, to ensure that it's a complex scenario. Sergey, I think that if CISO is a top manager, then it's solved differently. If he's on the top, then he or she should aggregate the teams working with, board of directors or CEO to ensure that the KPIs are set correctly. And my motivation is very simple. I work for the company. I don't try to think in a way that, I get the bonus, the CEO doesn't get the bonus. If we work together, if we share the goals of the company, and we are in good relationships with everybody in the management, then we help each other. We help set those goals and realistically conform with them. So, a small remark that I would want to also add is we are on the border between psychology and this system. And in terms of how the system is built and how we react to it, we are always in conflict. And to avoid this trap, we need to split those things. There's emotional part of the story, mechanisms to manage the team in stress situations when you think this is a tough story, is outside of the system. It has nothing to do with our typical management. It's more about emotional intelligence. So my suggestion is just to split the emotions and how the system works. The KPIs, those are different things. They work together, but they don't replace each other.
Okay, thank you so much. And we proceed with the Q&A from the chat box. The first question to you, Mr. Borisov. Apart from the number of incidents, can you name 3 top metrics that have to be reported to the directors of the company? 3 metrics. On top of my head, the status of key projects, total number of maturity or protection, and the key incidents. Not the number of incidents. Look, number of incidents. This is not a very clear metrics or indicator. For instance, a notebook has been lost. It's an incident, but doesn't matter. Usually now, and what is going on now, different, say, boss attack when, for instance, a letter would be written on behalf of the CEO of the company trying to do something. And usually it has to be reported to the CEO, to the board of directors, and the key projects. So not always this is about the cyber projects, but actually the business projects where the cybersecurity would matter. A question to Oleg Kuzmin, as probably most experienced person sitting in the room. What is your biggest mistake or blunder that you have committed in terms of cybersecurity? What lessons, 3 takeaways, 3 lessons that you have learned from that? Well, in terms of cybersecurity, I cannot name your big blunders, but probably I can name the mistakes that impeded me from achieving something that I cannot tolerate as a top manager. And we're discussing that with the top managers. From the very beginning, if something like that happens, then I would just leave the company despite the fact that the company trusts me, because I think that this is absolutely unacceptable. Therefore, I had several times to start my career from scratch. And every time my career growth would be faster, bear in mind the experience that I've accumulated, but this is my main criteria. As for the mistakes in cybersecurity, I try to rule them out. I'm dealing with social engineering for quite a while. I even wrote a book on that. I'm a practitioner there. And I try to use that in my practical work. So, to make such a mistake, you have to apply a lot of efforts or act without a second thought. So you never had any blunders. Probably I will not be able to name them. Okay, okay.
Зуев, вот ты говорил про то,
Ilya
что
Zuyev, you spoke
у тебя
about
там был прям серьезный
the fact
такой
that you had
инцидент. Скажи,
a very
пожалуйста,
serious
сколько времени
incident.
ты из него
How much
выходил?
time it took you in order to get out of that
Протяженность
situation?
этого выхода.
The length of the way out. 12 days.
Эмоционально выходил или
You
А
mean
и так, и так.
how many days it took me to recover that emotionally, from that emotionally? Emotional probably took me about 2 weeks.
произошла во время, как только я узнал, произошла мобилизация внутренняя такая всех.
Well, actually, once I identified that incident, I mobilized all my internal resources, and 2 weeks I was thinking about that, engaging people to understand how to live further, just like Joseph Stalin, who locked in the room and didn't want to talk to anyone for some time. So I had to understand how to cope with that. So in 2 weeks' time, I came up with an action plan, with the algorithm. We tried to consider all the potential scenarios in order to make everything very neatly, that no one learns the situation. I mean, no one out of the hackers or criminals. And we followed that action plan consistently, cold-bloodedly for about 8 months. But everything depends on the scope of the infrastructure. The bigger the scope is, the more time you need. Certainly, we mobilized everyone. And certainly, the worst of the crisis was fixed within several months. Then we actually did everything to eliminate the consequences.
У нас тут коллеги
Sergey, a question to you. Our colleagues from chat said that we are too pessimistic, that we have to add some positive news. Tell us more about some real case that you were awarded with a medal for,
буквально коротко.
anything like that, just briefly.
Ну, вообще,
Anything to boast?
она как-то, да, не
Well,
про все хорошее, про все плохое.
cybersecurity profession is all about negative news. If you're not hacked,
Никто не вспоминает.
then no one
О том, что
recalls you.
пришли, вот, и там сказали, ты молодец, у тебя...
So I cannot say that someone has come to me and said nothing wrong happened, so here is your bonus for that. No, it doesn't work like that.
Все-таки говорили о том, что мы там в двух плоскостях говорим, да, в системной и в такой эмоциональной. Вот.
And emotionally, certainly, you have to motivate yourself, to praise yourself,
Позитивные сигналы, в том числе от руководства. Вот.
getting some positive message from top managers.
Там свое психологическое состояние чуть-чуть.
And for instance, I do that in order to keep myself high in the spirits to the extent possible. And I try to come up with some creative solutions and sell that to the top managers as far as I'm in charge of the risk management and cybersecurity. I come up with something new, brand new, and I would say that, guys, we're developing business, and not to make sure that this business doesn't waste money, we can actually open a subsidiary with a license. I try to contribute to the work of the company, not just reporting that nothing wrong has happened today, but I try to make an impact, suggest some new solutions. Out of the new solutions, actually, we made a mobile office, a bus, really, and people asked me why you need a bus, what risks you are hedging. This bus was not very costly, and we did that. And when the mutiny started in June 2023, I said, here you are, and we can take our staff on bus and move away from Moscow. And there are lots of such scenarios. And this is not something big in the scale of a galaxy, but such things may help you to keep spiritually up. Okay, thank you so much. Let me add something about some pleasant details and amenities. It turned out that it's great if the chairman of the board or someone like that would give you some statue or some certificate of gratitude for repelling the attack. So the chief information security officer has to be indifferent to these things. But if these attributes are then
Хорошо, спасибо большое.
Downskill to
Артем, тебе вопрос.
the team members, that would be very good.
Частые проблемы, которые возникают на работе,
Very often, the
создают
problems that may emerge in your office,
на команду, и команда в ряде случаев
and it imposes some tension on the team, and the team is about to leave, is about to quit. How would you react as the CISO? How would it impact your KPI?
Ну, на KPI ты имеешь в виду подразделение?
Yes.
Б. Да. Здесь, конечно, очень такой сложный вопрос, потому что
That's a very difficult question.
люди привыкают к одной инфраструктуре, они
Because people are used to one infrastructure and they are worn out. So the same typical
люди бывают перегорают.
repeated incidents, and people are psychologically exhausted.
Вначале спрашивал насчет киберучений. На самом
And
деле
asked about cyber
надо
drills,
пытаемся такую практику людям поменять немножко направление. То есть
that people would change the focus. For instance, if you're dealing with SLC, then why not actually doing a vulnerability test or something like that? And it means that you get relaxed
одинаковых инцидентов. Поэтому
from dealing with the same flow of incidents. So we can suggest that people change their focus, just like reshuffling the pack of cards.
Спасибо. Илюш Борисов, вопрос тебе.
Alexei, question to you.
Должна ли ответственность ЦИСа за утечку информации
Should CISO be responsible for the leak of information? And should the penalty be commensurate with the volume of leaked data? Well, all in all, I don't think so. Why?
Объем, да, там такой вопрос. Может утечь, не знаю, какое-нибудь видео, да, большого объема.
And it might be
Файлик маленького
a
объема, или там, не знаю,
video which is rather heavy, or it might be text which is not so heavy, small size text.
статистика за последние там пару лет.
There's different statistics of the last several
Миллиарда записей утекло.
years, just about several million
Две случаев
records were leaked to the public, and
наказывать ЦИСа за то, что не утекло ничего нового, нет смысла.
penalizing the CISO for not leaking anything new doesn't make sense. We can imply some responsibility.
сейчас так рассуждать, то
If there
мне
is no
кажется,
connection
сейчас
to the
ничего утечь
size,
не может в принципе, с учетом всех этих.
Такая позиция,
nothing can be
на
leaked.
самом деле, она не нова, но давайте говорить, на самом деле важен состав данных. Не так важен объем, как важен состав. Условно, утекли
The composition matters. If emails were leaked,
номера телефонов можно...
phone numbers, but phone numbers actually can be rerouted. This is a very well-known list. But if there are a list of phone numbers that are connected to emails and to the card numbers, credit card numbers, then it's no good. Or, for instance, if it is connected to the ID data.
количество строк.
Понятно, спасибо. Илья Зуев, тебе вопрос, и переходим к блицу. Как ты думаешь, искусственный интеллект может заменить вредных ЦИСа в
Do
конечном
you think AI may replace CISO end of the day?
Что да.
не вредных?
И не вредных.
And what about good or bad ones? I don't think so that it could replace anyone. Well, AI is being used very actively in order to develop strategy in the hostilities. CISO work, for instance, this is about the development of a strategy, how to consider all the things, how to build the whole set of measures.
Которым, мне кажется, CISO должен научиться пользоваться, тогда его не заменят.
Понятно. Есть иные мнения, коллеги?
Any other ideas?
Я думаю, что вот искусственный интеллект, тот, который, по крайней мере, мы видим
I
сейчас,
think that the artificial intelligence, at least which is available now, is not even close to that, probably artificial intelligence.
Инциденты отдельные, которые расследовал, выводы были такие, что разница
Of the future may be close to that. We do not consider the difference in mindsets. Our developer has his own vision as how the product is going to be used, but the user would have totally
удобнее там, вот, и вот эти категории между разработчиком и
would have a total different approach. The difference between the user and the developer in terms of the mindset is quite big. And besides, there is a person who controls all these things in terms of the cyber security. security. The difference in types of mindset and how it translates into the product. Well, AI will never replace CISO.
Инцидентов, он точно поможет давать типовые ответы бизнесу.
It may help us to get some template answers to the users, for instance.
Окей.
AI may be trained in order to provide answers to 50 most frequently asked questions.
Самую главную,
Blitz
на
round.
ваш взгляд,
Give us one of the most important indicator that you have to use in order to measure the efficiency of CISO. Ilya, what is the most
Самое
important?
главное
The most important.
индекс удовлетворенности руководителя.
Так,
The boss satisfaction index. Artyom, probably the number of critical incidents. Okay, Sergey,
Эффективность.
efficiency.
Как инциденты versus затраты, вот, и убытки.
Or
окей.
the ratio of
Хорошо.
incomes to
Всё-таки покрытие,
costs.
покрытие
Still coverage.
практик,
Coverage.
процессов и
With
всё остальное.
practices, with processes, and the rest.
Я думаю,
Oleg,
стоит исходить, насколько он
I
критичен,
think
или были он
we have to
предсказуемый, или все-таки он
proceed from the damage. Was it predictable or it resulted in some grave consequences? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. And let us applaud to our esteemed participants in the discussion. And I hope that it was interesting for you. Thank you.